Welcome back, everyone. We are in another location of my house, and I want to introduce you to a widow that some of you should already know. This is Kathleen Worth, and there are two things that we have in common, which I can't believe I actually am going to say what I'm saying, but this is the interesting parts of life. And I'm going to tell you how I found this out. So she is a widow and she's going to tell you her story. But this summer in June, I actually went to take my daughter to get her nails done because our church does an anniversary service for the weekend. This year was our 50th anniversary at the Rock Church. And we couldn't believe that we were having this without my father-in-law here. So I wanted to kind of do a little celebratory thing. And I think it was a couple days before that event that I was in a shopping center. And Kathleen was there because she meets with some widows and widowers. And they were having a little porchside chat, if you want to call it. And I just kind of greeted them as I was going in to get a coffee. And when I came out, I said, today's actually 8 years since my husband passed. And she said, today? And I said, yes. And she said, my husband's anniversary of his passing is today. So you're sitting beside two widows who lost their husbands on June 12th. How crazy is that? I mean, she's like, what? And I was like, oh my gosh, how did we not know this? Because we've had some conversations before, but never did we get down to the details of what day. And so I don't know. That's just really random, odd. I don't know what to say. Like, is that something we are rejoicing about?
Bittersweet thing.
Yeah, like cool, I guess. So without further ado, I just want to introduce you to Kathleen, but that is the two similarities we have. I think some other things are going to be revealed here today. We are talking about this after our month of wellness. So Kathleen, if you want to talk about being married for 30 plus years, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And raising a family and, the aftermath. What were some things in the beginning that maybe surprised you about a widow's walk?
You always know about the supposed loneliness, but you cannot underestimate that. Which I did. But I was blessed with a husband who prepared me for that.
Wow.
So when he got diagnosed the first time in 2015, but then we actually started the cancer walk in 2016.
How long was that walk actually?
Well, he passed away in 22. So from 2015, he had a
7
short
years.
period of time. They told us he'd be in remission for about 4 or 5 years max. We didn't make it quite that far.
Okay.
So as a military wife, initially, we had hard conversations of what ifs were to happen to him while he was gone. And
in his younger years.
In his younger years, yeah. So when the MS and cancer came in 2015, then we started having those conversations for real. I recommend all young couples to have those conversations.
Maybe we'll look at the camera and say this.
I recommend all couples, young couples, and you have them periodically throughout your life because things change. When we first got married, no children. Later on, we got children. Later on, we got teenagers. Later on, now they're all adults and I'm a grandma. So you need to have those kinds of conversations, and you got to be brutally honest, even though it's painful to think about. I could have went before he went. What would he have done with children still at home? I mean, you got to have those.
Wow, that's such a great point.
But the blessing in those conversations for me was I knew when he passed, I knew what to do. The first few things that you got to do so quickly after they pass away. But he didn't just prepare me for the financial stuff. He prepared me for going forward.
Wow.
Both times that he had cancer, he kept telling me to not mourn him too long, not grieve too long, to find someone else that will make me happy and spend the rest of my life.
Okay.
He kept telling me I was too young, I had too big of a heart, and I was not meant to be alone. Of course, initially I took that the wrong way. Like, I can't take care of myself. I took care of myself and 3 kids while you were deployed all the time.
Right, totally.
So, and he's like, no, that's not what I'm saying, because that's why I married you, because you could take care of those things. He just knew my personality. He knew my heart, and he knew I would get sad and I would get lonely. And that's just the part of how God made me.
Right.
Is to have someone.
Be around people.
Right. So, so you gotta have, to get back to the point, you gotta have those kinds of conversations. I've come across some widows who, did not have those conversations, whether it was a sudden death or, in my situation, an illness that you had time to prepare. I think the ones who had time to prepare, that's the only advantage.
Yeah.
Is preparing.
Right.
But you're not fully prepared.
Right, because you're still taking care of them.
Right. And you don't know what it's going to feel like or be like after they're gone, after everybody goes home. Life returns to normal for everybody else but you.
That's right.
You have to find what your new normal is.
Have you come to acceptance with this new normal?
Yeah, I'm actually very happy and I'm liking it.
Awesome. I like this. Look.
I went after he had passed away. It was probably about that first, I will say, the first year and a half, I was on autopilot. I don't really remember a lot of things during that first year. I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine actually take me to dinner on the 3rd anniversary. And we went to George's in Suffolk. And I had not been there for many, many years. Last time I was there, I'd only been one other time, and it was with some mutual friends of ours from church. And he and I went, had a great time. So I tell my son about it, my oldest one. John goes, Mom, you've been there before since then. I'm like, no, I haven't. I haven't been there since I went with Greg and Angela. He's like, no, Mom, Jessica and I took you then.
Wow.
And I'm like, when did you guys take me? I don't remember that. It was within that first year. Yeah. And so I didn't remember. I didn't remember. So I was just like, and that's not uncommon.
Right.
It's very common to be on autopilot. I didn't have kids living at home anymore to keep me kind of in that. So it was easy for me to lose days and weeks and months and track of time.
And that doesn't mean that she wasn't doing things.
No, I was. I just don't
the span of time gets lost.
It does.
I have heard that so many times. Some said they felt like they were in a bubble.
Yeah.
Where do you feel like the pain intensity, was it more in your heart? Did you feel it? Some said they felt it like a gut to a punch to the stomach. Did you have any physical response to the grief?
Oh my gosh, yes. So when he passed away, I weighed almost 300 pounds. So, and he made me promise to take better care of myself so I could teach the two grandkids that weren't born yet and any more that come after. And since then there's been, there's been 4 more born.
Congratulations.
Total of 15. So he wanted me to basically continue his legacy for him with the ones who knew him and the ones who don't, but will. But when he first passed away, I couldn't eat. The first couple days I could sleep because I was surrounded by family. I was completely exhausted. I didn't realize how much sleep I was not getting
up to that point.
The last couple of years. Because he slept walk. He had a lot of other issues, so I always heard and was up. But after everybody left, I went into deep depression. I went to church, but I was physically in church, but I wasn't in church.
Present.
I wasn't present.
Yeah.
I got I went through some depression, normal. I stopped eating. So initially when I first started losing weight, it was because I was not eating properly. I didn't get out of the house unless I absolutely had to, which was to go to church or go see a doctor. I isolated myself. My children, however, my oldest son still lived here at the time, and my youngest, they were constantly getting me out.
Okay.
They were constantly showing up or having me come over. They were making me
get out.
And at the time, some days I was like, I don't want to. But then they get a grandkid. They knew how to get me, and they'd get a grandkid. Like Janie wants you to do this, or Jackson wants, and they're like,
smart.
So, they weren't above bribery.
You can't say no to Grammy.
No, you can't.
You can't.
You can't.
For your grandkids, you got to show up for them.
Yes. So those are the things that kept me going. But where I felt it, it's easier to say where I didn't, because I felt it in my head. I felt it in my heart. I felt it in my bones. I felt it everywhere.
Wow.
I spent over half my life with this man. I met him when I was 20. We were married by the time I was 21. Our first child came shortly after I turned 22. So I built this great big huge life with this person and traveled different places because he's been able to be because he was in the military for preaching, and we've done a lot of good big things. So I did, I went from all of that to
and it makes me think of those scriptures. He says, you're bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, and the two will become one.
Yes.
And when you have God in the center, she was a pastor's wife, and I don't think she is still, whether. I'm just saying that just because your husband passed doesn't mean that you still don't carry the role of a pastor's wife and all the things that you've walked through.
No. And as a matter of fact, the church that I currently go to, they have hired me for a position. And the funny part is, a lot of what I did as a pastor's wife, but now I just get paid for it. So that's been a blessing.
And so here is, and I love you saying that, because a line I say, I'm like, what is this widow walk about? It's the life after death stories.
It is. And for me, it was finding out who I was. Because when I met him, I was young. When we got married, I became a military wife, and there's a lot of rules, so to speak, and behaviors and characters that can ruin his career if I don't behave in a certain way or act a certain. So I had to, not that I was a bad person or anything, but you still, you got your P's and Q's, you got to watch them. Then when he retired, then I became a pastor's wife, and you think you're in a bubble with being a military.
You're even in a smaller bubble.
Much smaller.
A fishbowl, they say.
Yeah. And so, so I was always being something for somebody else. I was
so
being
good.
a military wife. I was being a pastor's wife. I was being John and Andrea David's mom. Kathy, who grew up in California, was no more. If there's such a thing. And my husband used to hate the saying when women say, I gotta go find myself. Well, guess what? I had to go find myself. So he's up in heaven laughing at me because I know it, because that he hated that saying. Women don't find themselves. That's who they are. No, it's not. It's different.
Right.
So I'll never forget it. I have always been a very joyful, and especially after becoming a Christian, a joyful, peaceful, outgoing, loving kind of person.
Awesome.
I didn't feel any of that anymore. My joy was gone. My peace was gone. I didn't have any of it. And I'll never forget, a good friend of mine, Debbie, took me shopping one day. She says, we're going to go shopping. She took me out to Newport News. We met up with one of her daughters, had some lunch, went shopping. I was, again, just kind of autopilot.
Going through the motions.
Yeah, just going through the motions. And I'll never forget it. I have a pillow at home. We went into this home goods store of some sort, and there was this pillow that just jumped out.
Wow.
And it says, finding the joy in the journey.
And
so that had become
your mission,
and has become my goal, my
theme.
motto, whatever.
Yeah.
So and that's what I've been working on. God and I have been working on finding my joy again, finding my peace. And I got it.
That is so.
And I'm getting it.
I mean, I could almost get chills from that. And where do those chills come? When these messages start speaking to us that are really all around us.
Yes.
And it takes us becoming present with ourselves to really feel his presence in a deeper, truer way. Can you give any, as this, and I have said this thawing out, this thawing out starts to happen as the warmth of his presence starts to really come close. Did that happen to you?
It has. It's been it's been a total of 3 years since he's been gone. I would have to say in the last year and a half, I have felt like I'm coming back to life. Totally. Like when he died, I died.
That's it.
Okay.
That version of you died.
Right. So in the last year and a half, through some counseling with professional counseling, Christian counseling, and I make sure it's Christian, through wise counsel from very close Christian, godly, upright men and women, and my pastor, my church family, my family, I'm coming, or as my youngest son said, Mom, my mom is back and she's alive again.
Wow.
There it is.
That's
and
what
it's been going on in the last year and a half, and it's because I've started making positive changes. I started making healthy changes. I started getting more involved in my community again. I for a little while was working with the Hope Center as a mentor, but I had to take a break for a little while. I started another widows group that we meet weekly, and now I'm taking care of a young. I like to say young because she acts young, but I'm taking care of a woman. I sit with her and she has beginning stages of Alzheimer's dementia, and we have a great time. She's hilarious. And then I got the new job. So I'm
rebuilding.
Exactly. I've worked very hard at rebuilding who God has planned and what God has planned for me in this next portion of my life.
It's a refreshing story, Kathleen. I mean, because I have said this, I imagine more now of like, what are widows capable of?
We're capable of anything.
When we intentionally give the time that we gave to our spouse back to the Father. Yes. And say, what can you use me for now? Yep. The service, I read something, it was, I don't have it with me, but on Instagram, they have these certain like International Widows Day and certain calendar days that they've added these moments of awareness for the widows. And somebody said that the way they framed it was that a widow, you completed the course. You took your marriage as far as it could go.
I like that.
And I thought it was so positive of like, most of us, I know as me, is like, I'm sorry for your loss. This is a sentiment that we get. I'm sorry to hear your story. And that is very human nature to respond this way. I've responded that way to others. But as a widow, hearing it really doesn't make me feel happy. No. It makes me feel sad. And I'm not looking for pity when I share my story, but to share it and their response to be, I'm sorry. A lot of times I have found, and maybe you can speak into this, that it kind of alarms people because it's bringing death back to the present. Oh, yeah. And their mortality, or with like, it brought some fear in my circle of friends because of the suddenness of it. And sometimes the health decline can be pretty hard to watch, and some have a hard time facing that. But when someone says, like, you're a warrior, the widows who get to the finish line is a smaller percentage, but not as small as you would think, y'all. I've been doing some research, if you want to call my assistant ChatGPT, and I was looking up the numbers, and it said that there's about 800,000 widowed a year.
That's a lot.
In the U.S. of A, 800,000+ widows or widowers a year.
That's a lot.
And that our community is 14 million people in the U.S.
Wow.
14 million widows and widowers. So here at the Widow Walk, I am hoping to just be one of the many resources in the country here to remind people that we are not all of us would say we're thriving, but my heart is that the widows and widowers, the more I'm able to interview, that they're not just surviving.
Oh, no.
And
I'm done surviving.
And so that first year and a half, she was surviving. And that's really all she could do. This is very normal. And like she said, you don't know what's going to hit you. And even when Pastor Chuck gave her so much preparation, if you want to call it, these conversations, there's still a physical response. And that's where community comes in. Can you speak into what community has been?
My community is small and large. And when I say small and large, I mean small like in my local, large in, wow, I didn't know I had so many people.
Beautiful.
I still run into people who will come up to me and say, "Are you Pastor Chuck's wife?" Yes, I am. Sorry for your loss. And then they'll proceed to tell me, share a story. Some of the stories I heard, because he'd come home and tell me, but I was amazed at how many I didn't know and how many people he had touched. And those stories still touch me to hear them.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm done grieving. You're never done grieving.
Right.
I'll always remember him. I mean, I have 3 beautiful children. I have 15 grandkids. I mean, I can't ask for more than that. I can't. However, the whole, I'm sorry. I remember getting to a point, if I hear that one more time.
Right.
Because towards the end for him, and naturally, I was praying God would heal him earthly.
Here.
Okay. But when I saw the progression and I saw he was getting confused and I saw that he was starting to lose his memory, more importantly, when I saw how much pain he was in,
thank you.
My prayer changed.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand that, but until you're in it, you're not going to.
Yep.
My prayer went from, okay, God, you need to heal him, to hearing God's voice, and I can't explain it. I just heard clear as we're talking.
Yeah.
I'm going to heal him. It's not the way you want. So then I had to start preparing my heart.
Wow.
Because I knew what that meant.
Yep.
And so then my prayer switched. Okay, God, if you're not going to heal him the way I want, heal him your way. But make it quick. Make it pain-free. Make it the way he wants. He doesn't want to live long enough to not remember everybody. He doesn't want to suffer. And that's what he did.
Wow.
Within 3 weeks.
Wow.
That's all it took. And
the affectionate, fervent prayer of a righteous, there's scriptures about this, y'all. The Lord is listening to these wives. And I have thought that too, Kathleen, that there's mercy.
There is. There's mercy. There's grace. The last 24 hours of his life, I have a granddaughter that is she's amazing. She was only, 3 or 4 at the time. And she knew my security code to my cell phone. So she got my cell phone out that last 24 hours. And she took pictures.
Wow. Of
just everything going on around her.
Wow.
And usually when she gets a hold of my phone, most of the pictures get deleted because you can't tell what they are. And you might get one. I only had to delete one.
Wow.
She got moments in these pictures. And I'm going to have a book made for for each of the kids. In all of these pictures, you saw sadness, you saw goodbyes.
Wow.
You saw love, you saw happiness, you saw tears, you saw peace, you saw grace.
Wow.
You saw joy, believe it or not, joy is in the middle of grief and loss. There was just so much in those few little pictures that a 3-4-year-old didn't realize she was doing. She was just playing with grandma's phone.
I'm telling you.
That's all she was doing.
Angels unaware, where the spirit is literally probably, she was overcome by the spirit and was able to do things beyond her age, really.
Yeah.
And then capture moments out of this unction within herself. That junior Holy Spirit, there is no junior Holy Spirit. The Spirit within this little junior body did some things. That was a gift.
And I've shared some of those pictures on Facebook posts. I won't share all of them because some of them are a little too personal, and I don't feel like they would be respectful of Chuck. They're just for us.
Yeah.
But she just it just blows my mind. And so there was that moment for us to all be able to say that goodbye to him. He held my hand that last 24 hours. I stopped drinking, stopped eating, because every time I'd let go of his hand, he'd get agitated. So I just stopped and I just stayed right there.
Wow.
So we only had 2 more visitors come during that last 24 hours. We had asked everybody else not to come, and they respected that. My community, the way that they helped when he got sick, I had to do the outside, and I have an acre of land. I have a decent sized house. I was running to the doctors. I was doing all my normal stuff plus all his stuff.
That's right.
And it was wearing on me.
Yes.
And without even being asked, my one neighbor, he's just started cutting my grass. And this is months before he passed away. When my sister and brother-in-law came out for a visit, and they knew how I always kept my yard, how he and my job was flower beds, his job was everything else. My brother-in-law hired someone to start taking care of my yard for me while I dealt with that. My sister knows how neat freak OCD I am about my house, but she saw I couldn't keep up with everything. And so she hired another friend from my church to come in and clean the house. So nobody asked me if I needed anything. Nobody told me anything. They just walked in quietly, saw what needed to be done, and did it.
Wow.
I never asked. I never complained about not being able to do it all. I just did.
Can you explain what weight and gift that was? I have not heard that many times, to be honest, that people came through not just with a casserole. Like, this was love in action.
It was. Our church, I mean, he was a pastor, so maybe we got more attention. But the people who were cutting my grass, they weren't my church members. Granted, he married the 2 of them many years ago. But they weren't our parishioners. They were just good neighbors.
People. Yep.
My neighbor across the street, she would keep an eye on my house when we were gone, and if anything was fishy, she texted, and still does. We still watch out for each other. So for people, what I would say, if you know someone who is going through what I went through, don't ask. We're not going to tell you. We got too much going on up here here to be worrying about all that. That's why that's not getting done.
I'm going to cut you off and I want you to take this further. The statement, let me know if you need anything.
It's a waste of time because I'm not going to.
What?
If you can't figure out and see what I need, come on. I mean, it's pretty it's pretty obvious when somebody's going in my mind. Okay. Maybe it's just me.
Speak into this.
Maybe it's just me, but in my mind, in my experience, and especially being a pastor's wife, I've seen and gone into homes with my husband where there's been a loss or an illness, and I've been able to see what needs to be done. And I didn't say anything. I just showed up and I did whatever needed to be done, whether it was somebody was sick, somebody was dying. And I got the same thing in return when it was my turn. And I never asked. We're not going to ask, especially me. I'm a strong-minded, strong-willed person. I'm stubborn. I'll admit it. I know those things God and I are working on. But I'm not going to ask for help. I'm just not. That's not my character. But because I know that's not my character, I know I'm not the only one. So when I see the need, if I can fill it, that's what I'm going to do. Yep. And so when these people came around, family, strangers, neighbors, and they just saw and stepped up, the pressure was so relieving for me because, and it's funny, I am OCD. I like having my house a certain way. and I had to live in this house differently, but I didn't have the time. I didn't have the energy.
Yep.
And that added to my depression of what I was going through.
Right.
Knowing my yard wasn't what we liked it to be. I wasn't enjoying the things that brought me pleasure because they weren't
bringing
up par.
It. Yeah.
They weren't bringing it. So for people to step in, here's a good example, okay? My deck, this happened this summer. My deck, bless my husband's heart, but at the time his brain wasn't working right, so he didn't want to listen to everybody. We tried to tell him it was going to buckle, but he didn't want to listen. So it buckled, okay? And I needed to get it fixed. I don't have the funds to fix it. I don't even know how to fix it. I had several people tell me I was going to try and attempt it. I'm 60 years old. I have no business getting down on my knees doing that. But 2 men within my church, when they heard that my deck was buckled and that I wanted it fixed because my deck is my spot, my place. It was specifically built by Chuck and the kids for Mother's Day. It was a Mother's Day.
Wow.
They showed up and within 2 days had it fixed. And so when I say, don't wait for somebody to ask for help. If you see a need, step up, step in. They're not, for the most part, 99% of the time, they're not going to reject the help.
Thank you.
They're not. And that 1%, okay, then don't do it.
Right.
But that doesn't stop you from helping others.
And I think there is that, I don't know if it's a mental block that a lot of us, I don't want to say we keep to ourselves, but like each house and household is to manage their own stuff. Mm-hmm. And so for someone to come in and say, hey, let me come in here and take over, I think, and that may be how they feel like it's going to feel. Mm-hmm. And so to say, well, I don't want anybody just barging in my house and saying, I'm going to do your laundry. I'm going to wash your dishes. But what I'm here to tell you is we're in a state in that time where the basic necessity things mm-hmm. are too exhausting mm-hmm. to do.
Yes.
And so it actually is part of our healing.
Yes.
When people are willing to step in. That's where mercy, and I keep saying that, like the kindness of the Lord, yes. His kindness is moving through the body to say, hey, I understand when you lost your husband, not just a piece of yourself is gone. People have said it feels like an amputation.
It does.
Like she's lost an arm and a leg, guys. So how can she wash and do all the laundry when she's down an arm and a leg, and yet mm-hmm. she's supposed to somehow just bounce back in this miraculous way and not only do all the things she's saying that she was doing for herself, she now has to take on all the roles of 2 people when she's down an arm and a leg. So mm-hmm. we had 4 hands and 4 legs. And now she's down to 1 hand and 1 leg. That's how I want to explain this, y'all. Mm-hmm. So there is a deficit there. And for a time, it takes, I said this to a widow recently, that there's a weight to stepping into this new role called mm-hmm. widow or widower. This was not language I had 8 years ago, Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
But when we called it grief, okay? But I want to give it new terminology. There's a weight, but there's also a weight to his presence, but there's a weight to grief. There's a mm-hmm. weight to depression. There's different levels of weight. Some have the weight of his glory attached to it, and mm-hmm. some have the weight of our humanity, which mm-hmm. is some of these other things like the anxiety, some of the overwhelm. Those are not as life-giving weights, let's mm-hmm. saying that, but they're life-taking, really. They're taking life away from us. So when we're down, and sometimes we don't even know we're down, y'all. We can't mm-hmm. even articulate that. For someone to come in and say, hey, they're not coming over to say, oh my God, look at her house. And oh my, no, they're compassion. It's compassion to come in mm-hmm. and be nonchalantly doing things, and then you're like, it's lifting a weight off is what I'm trying to tell you.
when Crystal showed up at my doorstep to clean my house. So this is how this was done. Okay. Crystal was a parishioner of ours, and she has a home cleaning business. My sister saw the need. So she reached out to Crystal through my Facebook page because she didn't want me to be aware of anything. So then I randomly get a phone call from Crystal and said, hey, I want to have lunch with you. Could we meet up for lunch at your house?
Wow.
And I'm like, sure. I get off the phone. Chuck goes, who's that? And I said, I think something's going on with Crystal. All of a sudden she wants to have lunch at our house. She needs to talk to me. And so I immediately... I started worrying about Crystal, thinking something's wrong, and preparing, like, Lord, whatever she's getting ready to come over here and talk to me about, just give me your words, give me your comfort, give me whatever she needs. This is good. Give me whatever I need to give her.
Yes.
That was the expectation. Wow. I opened up my door that day, and there she was at my door. I'll never forget it. She had a vacuum cleaner in one hand and a bucket with cleaning stuff. And I looked at her and I said, what are you doing? And she goes, well, that was just so I could get in your house. And she came in my house, and Chuck was grinning from ear to ear. He was blessed by it.
Yeah.
I cried.
Yeah.
Because I was like, and I'm not a crier. I don't like crying in front of people. Anybody who knows me knows that. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And then she looks at me and she goes, your sister and I had this planned. And my sister lives in California, by the way.
Y'all.
So it was just, and then she even cleaned things I never would have thought to clean. I mean, when Chuck and I came back, I was like, man, my house, it smelled so good.
I'm telling you, it lightens it up.
Oh my gosh, I walked in, I was like, oh, this is heaven. I mean, this side of heaven, this is heaven.
And do you see joy? Joy starts coming back.
Yes,
You're feeling this weight lifting off. And people wonder, well, what do I say? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do.
You don't have to say anything. Listen. There's times where there are no words.
Yep.
No words are needed. Listen. Wrap your arms around them and hug them, hold them, cry with them, let them cry.
Yeah.
If they want to yell, scream, holler, let them. If they need a punching bag and you don't want to be it, give them something to punch.
Yeah.
Whatever they got to do, do it. There are no right or wrong words. Sometimes personally, I think no words are better because sometimes you might, and I'll give an example. Sometimes you might say something with good intentions, but it's received wrong. And I had someone early on when it came back, and this was another Christian friend, and we have since resolved the issue, but I'll share the story. She had made a comment that through Facebook, a messenger, so thank the Lord it wasn't on like my page, it was private. And it was to the effect that if I wanted him to be healed, I needed more faith.
Of course.
To which I was like, how dare you doubt my faith? Of all the people in the world right now, who do you think's not praying harder for Chuck than me or my children? It wasn't a lack of faith that he wasn't healed. And what people need to understand, and it was meant with good intentions, but it was received in the timing poorly. And I couldn't deal with that at that time.
Right.
So I just ignored it. I didn't reply.
Yeah.
I left it alone.
Yeah.
I didn't touch it. However, what people need to realize, especially with illness, there's healing. There's two different kinds of healing. There's earthly healing, which we all always want that.
Yes.
Because it's hard to say goodbye to people we care about.
Yeah.
We want to hang on forever.
Right.
But then there's God's healing. And who am I to deny Chuck or anybody else for that matter, that peace, that perfect healing, why would I wish Chuck to be back here with everything that's going on in the world today now, when I know right now up there, he's at Jesus' feet. He's worshiping him. He has no pain. I'll even joke, he has his hair back. I mean, why would I deny that?
Yeah.
For me to have continued to have him pray for healing here is selfish.
Right. And I want to take it a little step.
And it wasn't, and it wasn't a lack of faith on my
No.
part. I feel like it took more faith
Absolutely.
to pray, okay, God, I get it.
Yep.
Come get him.
For her to release him into his hands takes even more faith than to fight for him to stay sometimes. Because it is that level of obedience, acceptance. And this is a statement that I say, that God did not stop loving me.
No.
When he rewarded my husband with heaven.
No. And I see it every day, that he still loves me. He's allowed me to keep going. He's allowed my spiritual walk during that time. I'm not going to lie, came almost to a standstill, because I got hurt. I got angry at God. I'm not going to lie.
Hey.
Why are you taking him? We started our family right away, so we didn't have a couple of years to ourselves. So we were looking forward to that now that our kids were grown, and you just took that from me. So there was some anger. There was some, what did I do? We've always done it right. He's led so many. Why is this happening? It's not about the whys.
That's it.
It's not. And it took me a while to get to the point where it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So God, and the funny thing is, God had to remove Chuck in that sense from my life for a couple of reasons, but mainly God wanted me to start relying on him again. And he wanted me to rely on him 150%, not just when it was good.
Yep.
Not just when, so that's not to say I don't miss him, because I do.
Totally.
One of my grandchildren, was born not long after, and of all of the grandchildren, everybody says, oh, that's Chuck. Looks just like Chuck, and his name is Charles. He's named after his grandpa's. So I can look, though he physically is not here.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Yeah.
I can look at each of my children and see him. I can look at each of my grandkids, even the ones who have never met him. I can look at them and I see parts of him in them. I'm always going to have him. No matter what happens in my future, he's a part of it.
He can never be replaced.
Current, and my future. And whether God brings someone else into my life to share my life with, that's still going to be a part of it.
What would you call, how are you stepping into the legacy part of your life? Because that's what you're in.
What I'm trying to do legacy wise, I guess, is just to show my family that no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how bad it gets, we don't have to look far to see that it's going bad. As long as you depend on God, as long as you trust him, as long as you have faith in him, he's got your back. And even if it's painful, figure out what the lesson is to learn. I've always tried to figure out, and especially after becoming a Christian, I have always tried to figure out, okay, God, you put me in this situation. It hurts like the dickens. What am I supposed to get out of it?
Wow.
And I have learned forgiveness. I've learned how to forgive people. I've learned how to love people in spite of. I've learned how to, believe it or not, something that Chuck used to get on my case about, but I've even learned how to say no. I'm not very good at that. And I finally have learned to say, no, I can't do that, or that's, whatever.
Right.
So for me, my legacy predominantly is just stay focused on God. You cannot go wrong.
Yep.
You can't. You can't go further if you don't have him. I've met too many people who don't have him, some of them being widows, and they're still stuck.
Yep.
I started, when I sought counseling, is because I was stuck in the anger part of grief, which nobody ever talks about, the anger part of grief. They talk a lot about the emotional and all this, but you don't hear a lot about anger. But I was angry.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, the first day I walked into that appointment, she said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "My husband passed away. I'm stuck in anger and I don't want to be there. And I don't know who I am anymore."
Wow.
And that was a year and a half ago.
That's a clear
That was
statement.
a year and a half ago.
And look, Kathleen, thank you for your honesty on this. This platform these are the kind of conversations that I can't find, but keep finding me. And if I tried to find them, I would not find the caliber, the character, the level of depth. The widow and the widower have been through a narrower path. Mm-hmm. And it forges some things inside of us. And for those who are believers in Jesus Christ, we are thankful that He is our hope. We grieve with hope. We don't grieve like the world. That's the scripture, y'all. Yes. That we grieve with hope. And hope, actually, I was reading something yesterday that had this hope component is something that actually affects us neurologically. Mm-hmm. People who do not believe in heaven, death is very final. And so it can seem harder for people to accept these deaths because it's actually the end. For us, I like to call it the end beginnings.
Yeah, I like that.
And there's an eternal place that I actually believe is inside of every one of us. Whether we're a professor of faith or not, there's an eternal place in us that is longing to go home. Because we're passing through, the scripture talks about. So this is not our final destination. Nope. We're passing through some of our journeys. And I love that, to find joy in the journey. That's going to be the title of this episode because it is exactly what it is. There's a joy in the journey. And I like to say we're chasing joy down. Yep. Sometimes we have to be that aggressive. Kathleen has had to chase joy. Because grief demands a response, and grief is trying to, as she said, she died when Chuck died, that version of her, and the enemy wants to use that to say, just get in the ditch, jump in your own coffin, Kathleen. Yep. You have no purpose. Yep. Your best days are behind you. Chuck's what made you who you are. Yeah. Your significance on your own is basically marginalized. I'm not saying she thought all these things, but
You're not wrong, I did.
But I'm telling you, I battled it myself.
Yeah.
And so when she's saying 3 years in, I use the term becoming. I'm becoming this daughter of a king.
Amen.
That's the language He gave me. I was like, who do you say that I am? There's a song, I am chosen, I'm forgiven, I am who you say I am. But who did He say that I was? And it was a daughter of the king. Mm-hmm. And something shifted inside of me to say, well, I would think a daughter of the king would hold her head high, Kathleen. Mm-hmm. She would have some poise. Yeah. She's not the beggar. Mm-mm. She isn't walking in a poverty mentality that there's not enough to go around. And if I ask for something, I'm taking from someone else. Mm-hmm. This was all some of the unlearning that I had to go through. And it's deep, y'all. These are deep thoughts, deep soul. Some called walking through grief the dark night of the soul. Mm-hmm. That's not kingdom language, to be honest. Mm-hmm. That's more in the world, but I understand the sentiment. Because it does feel dark in grief. And there is some darkness attached. But you know what? Jesus was in that tomb for 3 days and it was dark too. Yep. But we serve a God who woke up. Yep. And He ascended so that we one day will be seated there with Him. And no, we're not going to be on the right or the left. Those positions have already been taken. But the scripture says to be absent with the body is to be present with the Lord. Mm-hmm. And the more I sit with the Lord, the more present I feel in my body, the more at peace I feel, the more identity I'm able to step into of what my call is, what my purpose is. And that is what Kathleen, without us having a conversation ahead of time to say, here's my tools. He's drawing us individually because it's all been, all of our salvation, it's an individual journey, y'all. Yep. My salvation doesn't get her into heaven. We can connect on our faith stories. But she's had to walk out her salvation story, and grief is a challenge in our faith at times. And that anger, what I have learned is that anger is a sub-emotion to grief.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the anger feels like that's really all it is, but it's a mask to the deeper grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of her saying always I'm grieving, you're like, I'm angry. But there's a deeper root to the anger. And so counselors, y'all, it helps you navigate deep things where there's kind of too much to process on your own. And they can help dissect that a little bit so that you can metabolize some of it so that this is amazing, Kathleen.
My counselor shared, and I shared an experience with her recently, and she explained it to me better. But 3 days before Chuck died, we finally had a moment, just the two of us. No hospice, no family, just the two of us. And it was the very last heartfelt conversation, heart and hard. And in that conversation, he released me and told me, when you're done, keep going. Move forward. Figure out what God wants for your life. If it's somebody else, fine. If it's not, fine. But you need to move forward and figure out what God wants for the rest of your life. And of course, I just was like, okay, whatever.
Right.
Because I wasn't ready to hear it.
Totally.
Well, up until a few weeks ago, I have not been able to go to the cemetery without one of my children. And every time I go, I cry. Okay. And they're tears of sadness.
Yep.
Okay. Well, a few weeks ago, I got in my car after church. I can either turn right to go home or turn left, go towards Windsor, Suffolk.
Yeah.
From where? I didn't want to go home for some reason that day. I just didn't. I didn't have to go grocery. I had nowhere to go.
Wow.
I had nothing I needed. But I turned left.
Wow.
Went into Windsor, turned right down 460.
Wow.
Next thing I know, I'm at the Veterans Cemetery.
Wow.
By myself. Unplanned. Nobody knows that I went, spontaneous.
Wow.
And I went up to his tombstone, and I stood there for a bit, talked, prayed, cleaned up around his tombstone because it was the grass. They didn't weed whack real good, so you couldn't see beloved husband, father, grandpops. Didn't cry.
Wow.
I did not cry. Got in my car when I went to leave, took this deep breath, let it out really slow, and felt like this humongous weight.
Wow.
Is the only way I can describe it. Just, I could physically feel it leave.
Wow.
And when I told the counselor about it, she goes, he released you 3 days before he died. You released him that day.
Woo! Man, you feel the chills on that.
And she said, he is now able to look down at you from heaven. She says, and that's if they're able to look down on you.
Yes.
She says, because she says, some people believe they're so busy worshiping, they don't care about what's going on down here. But if he is able, she says, he's looking down on you going, you go, girl.
That is so powerful.
And proud of you.
Bravo! Bravo!
Now, that's not to say I won't still cry occasionally, but
what a leap!
It was just, and it was the first time I've ever gone by myself.
And it's interesting. She's saying that the body directed her that day. I had a friend who she's not a widow, but she got her in her car recently, and she's caregiving for her parents, and she was invited to go to the beach Labor Day weekend, and she called and she said, I got in the car and I took a turn. And she ended up being in the same place I was the same weekend. Neither one of us planned it. And we got to see each other. And we haven't seen each other in like 2 years.
See, that's all God.
And so you couldn't plan it, but her body took a turn because her mind was saying, I need to stay here. I need to do all this stuff. And so there was alignment. There was an alignment happening where there's so much this internal battle that we have with our head and our heart, and then our body sometimes gets discombobulated with, we don't know, stuckness she's talking about, that is what that is. Where we, like, do we move forward? How do we honor, Chuck's life and not seem like it didn't matter? And I'm not saying she's thinking all of that, but this is where this overthinking thing starts to happen in a widow's walk of, how do I move forward? So a gift of her story that I did not get was that you got to have a lot of conversations where he gave you a little bit of a future plan, a foretelling of some things to help her springboard into that future without him. And I did not have a handbook. I literally felt like the chapter closed. I saw no page beyond it, blank pages, blank. I thought I knew where we were going.
Right.
And so then when the chapter closed, the book closed, I had to start relying on him, like you said, moment by moment. It wasn't just for the big stuff anymore. I needed daily help, and it was exhausting. It was mentally overwhelming. And there were moments of crying, like you said, where I just I can't do this. And you're desperate. I mean, that's kind of how I emotionally felt, which was not something I dealt with before that point. And I literally felt a charge in my body. Like, he gave me more strength. And so for me, Kathleen, and I want to end kind of with this, do you feel like you're walking out some of the scriptures in real time?
Oh, most definitely. It's the only way I can. It's the only way I know how. If I didn't have my faith, I can't imagine going through what we went through without it and surviving.
Yeah.
And I don't mean surviving the day to day. I mean just rebuilding.
Yeah.
Whatever it was and it still is. I'm
It is.
still
That's
rebuilding.
it.
I don't know what tomorrow
That's
brings.
right.
I know what I would like.
Yeah.
And God and I have these conversations, but ultimately it's his decision for my will. So I can't imagine not having my faith and go through what I've been through.
Yeah.
I have found an inner strength I never knew I had, but I know it wasn't just put there. God gave it to me.
That's it.
I didn't just wake up one
Muster
day and
it
have
up.
It didn't.
Yeah.
God gave it to me, and I can't do it without it.
And I want to encourage you that I've heard people say, well, you're very strong. I couldn't have done that. And I challenge that and say, you don't need it until you do need it.
Yes.
So she's saying, okay, maybe there wasn't that fortification of this strength, this faith, but the deposit was given when the time for it to be used was needed.
Yes.
And so, and I feel the same, that there is gifts in the release. There's gifts in this thing. And I feel like we actually get a double portion because we're down. And that portion is him. Okay, we get a double portion. If we invite him into our story, there is an opportunity for enlargement, for growth. This double portion is some scriptural language. And why? Because he's standing in as our husband now.
Yes.
And he's the all-knowing. We're not, there's no in between. When you're married, you're going to each other and then each other to the Father.
Right.
There is you have no middleman now with the husband. And I've heard other widows say that. Like, I can go directly to the Father now, where while we're married, there is this team thing happening. And so it's just clearer, or he's nearer. That's the best way I can say it. For those who really can understand the spiritual part of this headship you're talking about. And really, another term I'll use is you surrendering yourself and saying, you're the Lord of my life. Like, we have to kind of surrender that again. The lordship.
You don't have, so when you're married, scripturally speaking, your husband's the head of the household.
Yeah.
So though you go to God together, he's still making the ultimate final decision.
That's right.
That's gone.
That's gone.
That's gone. So you now are the spiritual head of your household.
That's
Whether
it.
you have children in the house or not,
That's
you're the
it.
spiritual head of the household. So every decision that I make for my life
Yeah.
has an impact
On your
on
life.
my life or those around me.
That's it.
And I don't have somebody to bounce my thoughts off, so to
Right.
speak. So I only have God.
That's
That's
it.
all I got. And I have to pray to him and I have to wait on him. I'm not a very patient person on waiting sometimes.
That's it.
But and I'm learning.
Yeah.
But I have to wait on his answer.
That's it.
You know about my major decision that I'm
Yes.
getting ready to make. I've been thinking about that for a year and a half. And it's just recently finally been spoken out.
Awesome.
I mean, he has shown me. So
The timing matters.
timing matters, and you gotta have that faith. You gotta know that there is nobody on this earth and there's nobody in heaven other than Jesus and God that love me more. So they're going to give me the very best that they think.
That's exactly
the very best they want for me is what
That's
I will
it.
get.
And that's the Kathleen she wants to become.
Yes.
She wants to become that maidservant who is sitting at his feet, and he continues to give treasures of truth over her life, treasures of dreams that maybe had been on a shelf that she forgot about due to life. And maybe there's new things that she hadn't even considered being part of this season. He's going to put it right in her hand. And I just have to leave you. We are 1 hour in, Kathleen. Can you believe that?
No.
And this is how beautiful these conversations are. I know she has even more to say. If you have loved this conversation, you want to hear more from Kathleen, we need you to comment below and say, can you come back on? Because she gave such practical, firsthand accounts of what it feels like to receive from your community, what it feels like to have unconditional love given to you. People did monetary things to help take care of her in the early months, which I'm telling you is critical to your recovery time. If you want to say delaying the grief, the more we have to take on in that beginning really, I think, affects that status quo. You're saying going through the motions state. I think it lasts longer the harder the aftermath is because we don't have the support. Here at the Widow Walk, we want to continue to grow this resource so that we know how to best care and step up and step in when these spouses are gone, and to be that helping hand with no conditions required other than to say, I'm here. I'm here to bring some cheer and smile from ear to ear. That's one of my lines. You know, I'm here to bring some cheer and smile from ear to ear. And that may seem odd for a grieving widows, but you see smiles here, y'all. And that is the spirit within us to say, I didn't die, Kathleen. I didn't die walking through this.
No, I got my joy back. I got my peace back. I mean, life's good.
And
there was a time I didn't think it would ever be,
and that's what depression wants to tell you. And so if any of you watching are dealing with those kind of voices, get in touch with us.
Yes.
Like she said, she had to ask for some help, but she found help. And in a year and a half or less, she was able to step back in with this new garment that she's wearing, this new identity and this authority as the spiritual head of her house, stepping up for her family. It not only changes our lives when we do this, y'all, it changes our kids' lives, our grandkids' lives. You talk about legacy. When women and men of God choose in and really say, my life is not my own, but to you I belong. I give myself away. It's a song we sing at church, a lyric. But that is really our hearts as believers, that we continue to give ourselves away, but then the Father gives us more, and then we have more to give. That is somehow what happens. So as you felt like you had less to give, you made some significant choices, and it's given you wind back in your sails, energy, the losing of weight, all these little intentional things that she had to do. No one could do it for her in some of these areas, But every choice that you choose in for yourself is literally life cells put back in your body to give you more longevity. And if she can do it, then I can do it.
I'm 60.
Hey, she's walking into a new decade. I'm telling you, I'm not even going to declare what all can be, but I feel like some of Kathleen's best days are ahead, to the point of pinch me moments to say, look what the Lord has done. What can you do when a widow says yes?
It's never too late to start over.
It's never too late. So trust the process. It is hard. There are some dark moments. Find some safe people to share what you're going through. Allow people in. Sometimes they create a way to get in your house by telling you they need you, and then they find out, no, you need them. Yeah. I love that strategy. It may not work for everyone, but it was the perfect thing that she needed to say someone cares. And that has been being reinforced for 3 years now for you. I mean, it's beautiful. This is what the body of Christ does. And this is what the benefit of community is. So thank you for watching. Tune in next week for more stories here with Mondays with Micah. And can we just say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye.